You are not a victim of your circumstances. You are the architect of your response to them. Most people will spend their entire lives waiting for permission to claim this truth. Many will depart this world without ever recognizing the immense power that lives within their choice of perspective. But if you absorb what I'm about to reveal, if you allow these principles to infiltrate the architecture of your consciousness, you will experience a fundamental shift in every domain of your existence. When I speak of prosperity, understand this. Prosperity has nothing to do with the accumulation of currency. Prosperity is the state of moving in alignment with the forces that amplify your life. You can architect prosperous relationships. You can cultivate prosperous friendships. You can build a prosperous enterprise. You can prosper in your studies, in your spiritual depth, in your emotional sovereignty. If you integrate these 5 principles into the foundation of your being, your life will begin to expand in directions you cannot yet perceive. The first principle: you are not a victim of external forces. You are responsible for your reality. This is perhaps the most challenging truth to metabolize, yet it is also the most liberating. We exist within a culture that worships victimhood. Turn on any screen, listen to any conversation. What dominates the narrative? People recounting how they were wronged, how life conspired against their dreams, how the world is rigged against them. And we applaud this. We comfort it. We say, yes, it's difficult. The system is broken. Everything is against you. But here is the truth that can revolutionize your existence. As long as you embrace the identity of victim, you possess zero power to create change. You become inert. A victim has no agency. A victim waits for rescue. She stands paralyzed, hoping for magic or pity. And if you position yourself to receive pity, your energetic frequency has collapsed to its lowest state, and you will magnetize only more negativity into your field. I recognize this may sound harsh, but consider this. It is far more comfortable to assign blame to the government, to your employer, to your partner, to the economy, to your astrological configuration, to karma itself. People say, I must have committed terrible acts in past lives to be suffering now. But a small amount of self-observation and internal development will dissolve any karmic debt. What karma do you truly carry if you have access to this transmission, to channels that expand consciousness? If your circumstances were truly insurmountable, you would not be here. Here is the secret. While you search for culprits for your circumstances, you are surrendering control of your life to external forces. When you say, this person did this to me, life is unjust to me, I have no luck, what are you actually declaring? You are saying, I have zero power over my own existence. And this is the greatest lie you can tell yourself. Responsibility is not a burden. It is a superpower. The moment you accept responsibility for your reality, you simultaneously accept that you possess the power to transform it. I am not suggesting you control every event that occurs. A storm can destroy your home. Someone can betray you. You can lose your employment. But you are responsible for your response to all of it. When you comprehend this, the entire paradigm shifts. Consider 2 individuals who lose their positions at the same company on the same day. The first spends months lamenting the injustice, cursing the supervisor, blaming the market, blaming the government, claiming exploitation. 6 months later, they remain unemployed with diminishing prospects. After all, they are a victim. The system is at fault. The second individual returns home that same day and asks, what is my responsibility in this? Perhaps I did not update my skills sufficiently. Perhaps I did not build a robust network. Perhaps I became complacent. Then they act. They revise their credentials. They acquire new capabilities. They connect with others. They pursue opportunities. 3 months later, the probability is extremely high they have secured superior employment with increased compensation, because the marketplace seeks individuals who solve problems, not those who lament them. What separates these 2 people? The first is a victim of circumstance. The second is sovereign over their own life. They possess personal power. This applies to everything. Your relationship is deteriorating. Instead of solely blaming your partner, ask yourself, what is my contribution to this dynamic? How did I participate in reaching this point? What can I do differently? Your children do not respect you. Instead of claiming the younger generation lacks values, ask what boundaries you established, what example you provided, how you can modify your approach. Your enterprise is not accelerating? Instead of blaming the economy, the competition, the market, ask what you are not perceiving, where you can improve, what capabilities you must develop, because others are succeeding. And understand, this does not mean adversity will not visit you. It visits everyone. People will betray you. People will disappoint you. People will attempt to exploit or harm you. Economic crises are real. Political and social turbulence exists. The planet is volatile. Illness arrives even when you do everything correctly. Accidents occur. I'm speaking about mentality, about becoming like a sailor crossing the Atlantic. You are not responsible for the wind, but you are responsible for adjusting your sails to use that wind in your favor, rather than against you. There is a story I find profound. A father took his son to meet two uncles. The first uncle was an alcoholic, living in misery, consumed by problems. When asked why his life manifested this way, he responded, "My father was an alcoholic and violent. What did you expect from me?" The second uncle was a successful entrepreneur with a structured family and a prosperous life. When asked the same question, he responded, "My father was an alcoholic and violent. What did you expect from me?" Identical origin. Completely opposite outcomes. One chose to be a victim, the other chose to be responsible. When you assume responsibility, even your errors become fuel for your evolution. You do not martyr yourself or diminish yourself. You simply recognize, I erred. What did I learn? How will I act differently next time? This is emotional maturity. This is personal power. This is what separates those who prosper from those who complain. But isn't this too heavy, assuming responsibility for everything? No. The opposite. It is liberation. When you are a victim, you are imprisoned. You remain dependent on others changing, the world improving, luck appearing, someone recognizing your worth. When you are responsible, you become free. Free to create, to transform, to choose. And more, responsible people magnetize opportunities. Why? Because no one wants to collaborate with a victim. No one wants to partner with someone who only complains, who remains trapped in suffering. No one trusts someone who always has an excuse. But when you encounter someone who assumes their errors, who learns from them, who acts to create change, that person becomes magnetically attractive to opportunities, to success, to growth. I challenge you now. Identify one domain of your life that is not as you desire. It could be financial, romantic, professional, familial, spiritual, your health, anything. Instead of listing all the external culprits, all the problems, all the injustices, ask yourself this courageous question. What is my responsibility in this? Why am I still here? Yes, we may have been wounded children in the past, but today we are adults. We desire an adult life, not a child's life, making choices rooted in suffering. There are countless pathways out. Therapy. No resources for therapy. Then consume educational content like this freely available. Consume it repeatedly and apply it. Do not memorize it. Apply it. Watch if your life does not transform. And it costs nothing. After you ask, what is my responsibility? Why am I still here? Ask this. What will I do now to harvest superior results in this domain? I am here. I know where I want to go. What is my step-by-step process? If you do not know, research it, because for every problem in this world, a solution exists. Do you believe you are the only one with financial difficulties? Has no one ever emerged from bankruptcy and prospered again? Has no one ever left an abusive relationship and found a healthy partner? Has no one ever healed from a disease deemed incurable? What do these people possess? Luck? No, they pursued the solution. A model of response exists for problems in every domain. The moment you ask these two questions and act based on the answers, you exit the passenger seat and take the wheel of your life, which is where you should always be. And then you have no limits to where you can arrive if you choose to go there. Possibility is one thing, wanting to go there is another. But the possibility exists. There are innumerable cases of people in extreme difficulty who transcended those difficulties and achieved success. In whatever domain. Begin reading biographies of people who had success, who departed from points of extreme difficulty and reached their objectives. Read these biographies and find inspiration to see that it truly exists. If you are willing to abandon the victim identity and assume responsibility for your destiny, I want you to make this commitment and declare in the comments, "I assume responsibility starting today." The second principle, it is impossible to be happy and prosper while complaining. This principle connects directly to the first, because complaining is the most common form of assuming the victim identity. Complaint is an addiction as destructive as any other, except it is socially acceptable. Consider how most conversations begin. "It's too hot today. The traffic is impossible. Everything is so expensive." We believe we are simply describing reality, but we are not. We are programming our brain to perceive problems in everything. Your brain contains a system called the reticular activating system. It functions like an algorithm. It shows you more of what you focus upon. When you complain about traffic daily, your brain interprets this as important and begins showing you more and more problems in traffic. You literally create more of what you complain about. And there is the physical dimension. Each complaint releases cortisol in your body, the stress hormone, pure poison in excessive quantities. It suppresses your immunity. It increases weight. It accelerates aging. It destroys neurons. Complaining is literally killing you slowly. But can I never say when something is wrong? Of course you can, but there exists a fundamental difference between complaining and identifying a problem to resolve. You mention the problem once, you register it, you note it, then you release it. Stop wallowing in the problem. What is complaining? Complaining is, "This company is garbage, nothing functions." Resolving is, "The system is slow, I will see what we can do to improve it." One is drama, wasted energy. The other is identifying a problem and projecting objective action to resolve it. Consider two entrepreneurs who began together, same industry, same capital investment. The first spends each day complaining about employees, clients, the government. 5 years later, they remain in the same position, diseased and bitter. The second encounters the same problems, but instead of complaining about employees, they train them. Instead of complaining about clients, they improve service. Today, their enterprise is worth 10 times more. Same conditions, different attitudes. And the irony, complaining resolves nothing. Has traffic ever improved because you complained about it? Has the government changed? Has your supervisor become enlightened? Never. The most prosperous people I know share this commonality. They do not waste time complaining. They identify what they can change, and they change it. What they cannot change, they accept and adapt to. Simple. Your vibrational frequency creates your reality continuously, and it shifts when you cease complaining. The manifestation field, the universe, call it what you want, responds by sending people and opportunities that vibrate at your elevated frequency. So it is time to end the complaint. The third principle, suffering is part of the process. This is one of the most difficult principles to comprehend. Today we exist in a society where media sells the illusion that life should be an eternal advertisement. Everyone smiling, everything perfect, zero suffering. And when pain arrives, we believe something is wrong with us. Nothing is necessarily wrong with you. Consider the gymnasium. What makes your muscle grow? Dedication and pain. It hurts. In the moment when it is burning, when you are lifting weight, when it is burning, when you want to surrender, in that moment your muscle is being reconstructed. It is becoming stronger. No pain, no gain. And life functions exactly this way. I am not saying you need to suffer constantly to achieve things. No, only those who have not yet comprehended that they create their own reality suffer constantly. A major portion of our suffering is psychological, and psychological suffering emerges from an absurd tendency we have to want to retain things. We were not taught to release, to act in a light, fluid manner, without becoming obsessed with results, anxious. Some people climb the walls when things do not occur in the moment they imagined they would occur. Suffering is the personal trainer of the soul. It gives you strength to grow, to evolve, to discover forces you did not know you possessed. As I say, you do not need to seek suffering because it will find you. It is part of the human package to have experiences of loss. The question is not if you will suffer. It is what you will do with that suffering when it arrives, with the difficult situation when it arrives. And there exist two categories of suffering: useless suffering and transformative suffering. Useless suffering is that which you prolong, which you feed, wallowing in it. That thing you cultivate daily with a little resentment. You keep reliving the betrayal years later, martyring yourself for the error you committed. It is suffering by anticipation for something that has not even occurred. This suffering leads you nowhere. Actually, it does lead you somewhere, to limbo. You become paralyzed. It is quicksand. Transformative suffering, by contrast, is that which you traverse, which you learn from and transcend with maturity, with elegance. Even to pass through suffering, we must be elegant. It is the pain of grief that teaches you about love. It is the pain of loss that teaches you about value. It is the pain of failure that prepares you for success. Do you know the difference between a diamond and coal? Pressure. Coal and diamond are composed of the same element, carbon, but they differentiate by atomic structure and formation conditions. Coal is a more fragile and common mineral. It is formed from decomposition of organic matter under relative pressure, while the diamond is the hardest mineral that exists, formed by extreme pressure and heat that rearranges carbon atoms in a tetrahedral form. The diamond is coal that endured the pressure. I learned this in the harshest way, when I lost everything and had to reconstruct from zero. I could have remained in useless suffering. This is not fair. I do not deserve this. But I chose transformative suffering. What is this attempting to teach me? How can I emerge stronger? What person do I need to become? And here is the secret. Suffering is a rigorous teacher, but it is the best teacher that exists. Happiness makes you celebrate, but suffering makes you take another step. Observe the great men and women of history. All of them, without exception, passed through brutal suffering. Steve Jobs was terminated from his own company. Mandela was imprisoned for 27 years. But they did not remain in the victim role. They used suffering as fuel. And there is something even more profound. When you accept that suffering is part of the process, you stop suffering about the suffering. You stop fearing the fear. You stop fleeing from life. It is like that story of Buddha. They asked him how to end suffering. He responded, "The first arrow is the inevitable pain of life. The second arrow is the suffering we create resisting the first arrow." Most people take 2, 3, 10 arrows because they keep fighting against the first. When you comprehend that suffering is part of the process, you develop resilience. You already know the storms will come, so you construct a stronger vessel. You are not surprised when life tests you. Suffering is also a filter. It separates who you truly are from who you thought you were. It separates genuine friends from convenient ones. It separates the essential from the superfluous. But the most beautiful aspect of accepting suffering as part of the process is that you stop wasting energy fleeing from it and use that energy for something far more powerful, transforming it into purpose. How many of the greatest enterprises, humanitarian organizations, social movements were born from someone's suffering? The mother who lost her child in traffic and created a campaign that saved thousands of others. The entrepreneur who went bankrupt and created a method that helped others avoid bankruptcy. Your suffering is not only yours, it is raw material that can be transformed into contribution to the world. So next time suffering arrives at your door, and it will arrive, instead of asking, "Why me?" ask, "For what purpose? For what purpose is this occurring? What do I need to learn? Who do I need to become? How can this prepare me to help others?" Consider this. The fourth principle: discipline defeats talent. Talent without discipline is merely wasted potential. Everyone knows someone supremely talented who achieved nothing, and everyone knows someone mediocre who reached the summit. The difference: discipline. Posture. Discipline is doing what needs to be done when it needs to be done, even when you do not want to do it, especially when you do not want to. Facts. Mozart practiced 8 hours daily from age 3. Michael Jordan was cut from his school team and trained until he became the greatest. Cristiano Ronaldo was not the most talented in the youth academy, but he was the first to arrive and the last to depart from training. Brazilian players exist who are far more talented than Cristiano Ronaldo, but before age 30 they retired and could not express their full talent. Meanwhile, Cristiano Ronaldo continues past age 40 with infinite individual awards, an impeccable body, impeccable nutrition, and principally an impeccable mind. Do you know why discipline is more powerful than talent? Because talent is a genetic lottery. You are born with it or not. Discipline is choice. Everyone can choose to be disciplined and achieve superior results than someone talented, and there is the mathematics of success. If you improve 1% daily with discipline, with posture, in 1 year you are 37 times better. It is the power of compound interest in real life. The talented person who trains when they want experiences peaks. One excellent day, another terrible. The disciplined person constructs an empire brick by brick every single day. But is this not a harsh life? You know what is harsh? Watching your dreams die because you lack the discipline to realize them. Being in the same place 5 years from now because you lacked the discipline to change. And still saying, I cannot have discipline. Discipline is freedom. Transform your paradigm. Discipline is freedom. When you have financial discipline, you have freedom to travel. When you have discipline with nutrition, you have freedom in your body. When you have mental discipline, you have emotional freedom. And the secret no one reveals. Discipline generates motivation, not the contrary. Everyone waits for motivation to arrive before beginning. No, you begin with discipline. You see results. Then motivation comes. How will you motivate yourself without results? And how do you expect any results without discipline? So you must first act with consistency, a little daily, so that you begin to harvest results, at least some. And then you will observe them and feel motivated. This is a cycle that does not terminate. It continues escalating. You become addicted to being disciplined, to realizing what must be realized because you witness results in your life. And how to develop discipline? Simple. Begin ridiculously small. You want to meditate? Begin with 1 minute daily. Can you do that? 1. You want to exercise? 10 push-ups daily. Small, but every day. Create rituals, not decisions. Do not have to decide daily if you will do something. Create a ritual that leads you automatically to execute that action. Do not decide if you will exercise. Simply wear exercise clothing upon waking. Already prepare the clothing there. Even if you manage to do a single squat in today's training, at least you trained. You checked your day. If you gave 30% and that 30% was the best you had to give today, then you gave 100%. Mark an X on the calendar each day you fulfill your word. After 10 days, you will not want to break the chain. The fifth and final principle. You do not need to be ready. You only need to begin. This principle destroys excuse number 1 of certain people. I am not ready yet. No one is ever ready. Never. This is an illusion. It is a fairy tale your fear invented to maintain you in the comfort zone. When I know more. When I have more money. When I lose weight. When the moment is perfect. The perfect moment is always now. Now you have everything you need to take the first step. And one of the greatest fears, what if I fail? This is something you do not need to fear. You can be certain, because you will fail. And this is excellent, because each failure is data, information, learning you would not have if you had not begun. Failure is not the opposite of success. It is a step toward reaching it. Not one. Several. You will fail multiple times. Imagine if the divine appeared before you and said, you are 30 errors away from your great success. You would act as rapidly as possible to make those 30 errors quickly and finally succeed. The divine does not need to appear before you to say this. I, as a friend, can tell you, you are a few failures away from your success. So proceed and fail. Make errors. Only those who act make errors. If you are not committing errors, it is because you are stationary, inert. I will tell you now about the 30% rule. When you are 30% ready, begin. Why? Because the other 70% you only learn by doing. It is like learning to swim. You can read every book about swimming, watch every video, but you only truly learn when you jump in the water. I observe so many people waiting to be 100% ready. Do you know where they are? In the same place for years, planning, studying, preparing, course after course. It is never sufficient. Meanwhile, those who began at 50% are already on the third version of their project. Perfectionism is procrastination disguised as excellence. It is your ego saying it is better not to do than to do imperfectly. But the imperfect done is worth infinitely more than the perfect imagined that never departed from paper. Consider Google, Facebook, Instagram. When they began, they were horrible, full of bugs, ugly design, limited functionality. But they began and improved along the path. Imagine if they were waiting to be ready. Beginning small is beginning wrong. False. Beginning small is the only way to begin. You want to open a restaurant? Begin selling meal prep. You want to be a writer? Begin opening a blog. You want to give presentations? Begin with live streams on social media. Even if only one person is watching. Even if no one is watching and you use that opportunity to train your speech, your posture. So when there is one person, you are a little better than yesterday. Movement generates clarity. Stationary, you have 1,000 doubts. In movement, the path appears. And there is magic that occurs when you begin. That worn phrase? The universe conspires. Doors open. People appear. Opportunities emerge. Test this. But none of this occurs in the world of ideas. It only occurs in the world of action. Do you know the true tragedy? It is not beginning and failing. It is dying with your dreams intact, perfect, and unrealized. It is arriving at the end and recognizing that you were your greatest saboteur. But the market is bad. The market is always bad for those who have not begun, and always good for those who are acting. But the competition is very strong. Competition signifies demand exists. It is a good sign. But I do not have resources. Begin with what you have. Reid Hoffman, founder of LinkedIn, said, "If you are not embarrassed by the first version of your product, you waited too long to launch it." Action defeats anxiety. That cold sensation in your stomach, that fear, it only exists before you begin. After you take the first step, it transforms into adrenaline, into energy, into fuel. And I will tell you the greatest secret of all: beginning is the most difficult part. After the stone rolls, inertia works in your favor. The first day at the gymnasium is the worst. The first page of the book is most difficult. The first client is most challenging. But here is the trick. Your brain will always manufacture reasons not to begin. Always. It was programmed to protect you, not to make you grow. So you must reprogram it. Your brain will always resist. But you are not your brain. You are the sovereign of your brain. And sovereignty means you decide, not your fear. Knowledge without application is merely an echo. Declare your first act of mastery. In the comments, inscribe the single principle from this transmission that you will apply consciously in the next 24 hours.